Dude, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. How about you guys?
Just okay? How can we make you better?
Oh, I don't think
Where do I begin?
yeah,
Tell
yeah,
every
exactly.
tell
No,
everyone
no,
to
no.
buy the
It's
album.
we leave for a tour and the world's there's just so much going on right now
Yeah.
with album prep and tour prep. Like tonight we have our first practice to rehearse for that tour. I haven't made a set list yet. Do you two
Ooh.
bands?
Johnny does.
Okay. Making set lists used to be this like fun craft. It's gotten a lot harder now that we have six albums, trying
I
to
was
like figure out how to do that. So,
Yeah. Also, when you're
uh,
releasing something new and you want to showcase the new stuff, but also the fans want to have the old stuff.
exactly. So, and then there's also, the logistics of specific tunings and certain blocks and all that sort of stuff. Probably stuff that's not that exciting for a listener to hear that like that's what you have to take into consideration. But,
You'd
you
actually
know,
be surprised. Yeah,
yeah.
you'd be I think surprised. people are more and more interested in hearing like what goes on to bring the experience to them. Like it is something fascinating because it's up until recent years, it's something that's always been in the dark.
It's true.
I
That is
feel
true.
like with the advent of like podcasts and reaction channels becoming bigger and bigger and people getting a bit more access to artists, it is kind of a cool thing to go, oh fuck, I didn't know that's what they have to do to get this forward. And for you guys, it gives you opportunity to be like, appreciate us more. Yeah. Yeah, stop
Yeah,
screaming songs at us like we're doing our best.
right. Yeah. And I mean, we've never been a band that has ever had a guitar tech on tour. We still travel very, very humbly with always just a van and trailer situation. And we keep, it's usually just us, maybe one other person with us. So, um, yeah, when it comes to like tuning breaks and things like that, they're, each block is divided by, this is all in standard. This one is in drop, etc. And as our records have gone on, most of the album usually ends up being in standard, where a lot of our very early material was in drop. So when
Mm.
you want to mix those things up, you don't want to have just like you want to have a block of songs like feature new and old. So
Yeah, you don't want to be
anyway,
like changing every single song between your tunings.
totally, exactly,
That
exactly.
that
But
kind of brings me
I
straight to the next point with your
what
the tunings and the newer music, because that was something Johnny and I were just saying, is there is musically a bit of a sonic change that's happened over the years. Is there ever any times where you're like, oh, it would have been so much easier if we just stuck to the one tuning or the one sound throughout there?
sure, definitely. And I applaud bands that stuck to their guns throughout their entire thing. But I think as the one that does not play guitar in the band, I can only speak so much. But yeah, I think that these guys just kind of have always looked at it like if you keep it in just one tuning, you start to become very limited
Sure.
and
Yeah.
you start potentially repeating yourself. And as someone who stresses about repeating myself when it comes to lyrics, I can only imagine that when it comes to music too. Like I'm at the point where like I won't use the same word a second time.
No way.
Yeah. Unless it's, obviously I'm using the and I and
It's
things
a
like
very
that.
short album.
Yes, exactly. But if I'm ever writing something and there's a word that comes up that for rhyming purposes or whatever it is, I'm like, oh fuck, I used that on the second record. I can't do that.
That is a hard thing as well because like being a lyricist myself, like I know that you do get stuck in that I need to get this done. This is going to work the best and sound the best, but it's also something that I've done already in this song. I don't want to hear, like myself because I've done it in the past and then I'll get to that part and I'll sing it and I'll be like, oh God, like I literally finished a line with this same word, the verse before. And it just plays on my mind and you start thinking that you've let yourself down create like in a
Oh
creative
my
way.
God. Yeah.
It does your head in.
Yeah. I wonder if you ever deal with this where sometimes when I'm writing a song, I'll think I'm clever to where I'm like, okay, for the third verse of this or whatever, maybe I'll just like make this line go first and I'll repeat that line, but I'll have it go, at the end of the phrase. And then when it comes time to perform that song, I can never remember which one's first. And then that's where I'm like, now I'm
Literally,
just messing this up. Yeah.
literally happened to me on the weekend.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
And it's funny because when you're doing it, you're thinking this will be really easy to remember. It's hooky. It'll work. But then when it comes time to have to perform it, you're like, now I can't
yeah.
remember which one I was supposed to do first. Or maybe you
See,
just change
that's
one line of it
Yeah,
or like
exactly.
one word.
And then you
And
get
then that
the DMs from fans going, "We heard that."
yeah.
that's
Right.
where you rely on the fans. You get to that line, you
Uh-huh.
sing it.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
don't remember. I always wondered why they were doing that. You're definitely known for being quite verbose with your lyrics. Is that something that I know it's like it's a pride thing, but to challenge yourself, do you ever think like, okay, I've used this word or this tone, how can I make it more dramatic or something a little bit different? Like, does the thesaurus ever come out? How do you work on that when you stringing together lyrics?
Hmm. Good question. Um, I come to find in this, I apologize for how like, I don't know, whatever this might sound, but I come to find that when I'm overly stressing about getting a certain thing right, that it's never going to be right, that I need to walk away from it. And then when I think of something that is just as straightforward as possible, or maybe something hyper specific, um, that tends to land more in the way of whatever drama I was looking for.
Yeah, okay.
If that makes sense, like it's one thing to try to make an impact with a line, but it's another thing to bring people in if it's something that they can relate to more. That's what I've come to realize over time.
We were discussing this on the new Whitechapel song, and I was like, I had to genuinely look up for the words in the song. I was like, I don't know if I can get down with that. If I have to sit there with a dictionary figuring out what they're saying, I'm probably not going to be able to sing along to that.
Can I ask what words they used? Do you
Oh,
remember any of them?
One of them was like chlorophagous.
yeah, which is like eating the excrement of an animal. And that's not a word I really want to know anyway, to be honest. But
Wow. Okay.
yeah, very visceral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like yeah, that's definition. Use that in a sentence.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I was looking up, I was like, I said to Joe, I was like, not only does he sing them with such ferocity, but I don't even know what to say to start with. Like, let alone.
I like to, me not knowing much about that band, I would like to hope that they're in the same boat though, where they're like, well, I've already used shit in the past, so now I have to use this word.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I said that in the video. I was like, I don't know what that means. And someone was like, oh, I learned that meant because he's used that in the song before. So
why is that something that someone would sing about many times?
Yeah. I'm not there to break.
I really like the band, but I've got questions about that. Anyway.
The congratulations, by the way, on new signing. You guys with Rise now. I think that's freaking sick because Rise Records have such a talented roster, and I'm stoked to see you guys on that.
Thank you.
First release with them.
Correct.
How's that process been?
It's been cool. They yeah, I mean, they've been around for a really long time. They have I really appreciate what they have been doing these last couple of years with a lot of, I tend to not want to use the word like legacy act bands because that almost sounds like a four-letter word at some point, depending on how you phrase it. But I think it's cool that they've been so helpful doing bands like, and just the care and consideration I see that they put in for releasing records from bands like AFI, for Alkaline Trio, for At the Drive-In, for American Nightmare, Circus Survive, like things like that, the bands that have this built-in fan base that might be a little harder for them to reach their audience with new material because those audiences just love the old stuff or, things like that happen. So I don't know if people fully realize how much of a challenge it actually is for a label, for a band to like get the new music in front of people that are so in love with the older material.
Sure.
So anyway, just seeing how they've orchestrated doing that. Also, there's bands like Pup that we've known for a long time that we're friends with, and they've spoken very highly about the label. So we just felt like we were in good hands. And also, just when you meet people and you can just tell that they genuinely care,
Yeah.
That's all I think anyone can really ever ask for.
I suppose it must make it much easier when, like you said, you've got a lot of peers that already have an experience with them, and you know that they're dealing with a lot of, as you said, legacy bands. Um, Jumping from label to label can be a pretty daunting task because, you know, with anything that comes with contracts and paperwork, you never really know what you're getting until you're in the middle of it. So surely that helped you guys secure the decision pretty easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're a major label, it's BMG Rise, and we've never had that experience. We tend to do things in groups of two. We were on a label called Death Wish for 2 records, and we were on Epitaph for 2 records. Now we're trying Rise. We did 2 records with a gentleman named Brad Wood. These last 2 we did with Ross Robinson. I don't know what we'll do next, but we tend to do things in groups of two just to sort of keep things fresh, have new experiences. And we have positive things to say about every single one of those situations. So, it might be a thing where it keeps the relationships fresh and you're leaving on good terms always if you're just doing 2 at a time, you know?
Yeah, you always hate hearing those horror stories of, the fallouts with labels and producers and things like that. But I guess like with any relationship, even with band members and stuff, it's a fine art with massaging those relationships and keeping them friendly when the decision making process starts to get tougher and tougher.
Absolutely. I like, in the moment I don't like it, but when we have to break up with these people, it hurts in the moment because you're ending a relationship, etc. But
they're like, what did I do wrong?
Right. No, I would rather have a kind of heartbreaking breakup than an angry one where we're like, I'm so glad we're not with that person anymore. I'm kind of happy that every single one of these breakups that we've had have been like,
it's not you, it's
a
me.
little like, hey, like,
have you
yeah,
ever
it's like, hey,
it's
like,
not you, it's me.
Yeah, no, truthfully, yeah. I mean, like we've experienced these with every one of these things that I've mentioned, and I can also say with like I have zero hesitation that I would still take a bullet for people in every one of these situations. Whether it's like someone at a label that really cared about us that I love deeply, or a producer that we worked with that I love deeply that we ended up not working with going forward.
Sure.
So
I think that's probably more of a reflection on who you and who the band are as people rather than necessarily the people you've chosen to work with. It probably says more to your nature of being appreciative and loving towards them as opposed to being like,
that could
got
be.
what we needed and off for all.
And also, I feel like, once you have that difficult discussion as well, anyone that's been involved in music for a while knows that, um, like you can only do so much progression and so much finding yourself and finding the next chapter if you stay in the exact same situation.
Yeah, and I think that that's always been how our band has sort of operated to where we we overthink things, that's for sure. We definitely overthink things, but at the same time, we make decisions based on, hey, you only live on this fucking planet one time. Like I would like to experience as much cool shit with this band that we possibly could. I mean, I don't remember how long ago it was, 12 years ago, 10 plus years ago. We did a stadium tour opening for Rise Against in Europe, right? And it was around the time that we were still very affiliated in like DIY punk culture, which we obviously still have a lot of deep affinity for and connections with, et cetera, et cetera. But like, there was the handful of people that were like, you're doing that? And we're like, fuck yeah, we are. When the hell else would a band like us ever get the opportunity to play a stadium? Like,
Absolutely.
and also, not that they need my defending them, but I still stand by that Rise Against is probably still the most punk band that we've ever toured with in the sense of their values, their ideals, and the way they operate on even a tour of that scale. So like,
and they've done it while becoming superstars, like while becoming a big mainstream rock band.
Yeah, I mean, next to their merch table, they had a table of pamphlets about animal liberation, veganism, anarchism, all of that sort of stuff. And the people that were running those tables, they were paying for their travel and accommodation. So you have these like crust punk kids sitting at a table selling all of this litter or giving away all this literature in like arenas. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And like Tim is up there like saying, practicing what he's preaching up there. it's easy for a band to like gain a fan base and then sort of abandon those sort of things, but they kept it true. And I thought that that was just one of the cooler things I've ever seen.
Does that inspire you as you guys continue on your journey to stay true to that messaging and be like, look, that we saw them, they do it. It's clear it can work. We can stay true to that messaging that we have for us also.
Well, I will say that, you know, Touche's never been like, we don't really sing about politics and things like that. So we've never really made that our business. We have, you know, of course, like all the normal punk ideals that I think any punk band should have. But, you know, we always try to operate what's best for, you know, our fan base and, you know, all of those sorts of things. But you know, it was definitely inspiring to see every single day, to just be like, yeah, you can still stay the same band and make sure that your fans are looked out for, and you're doing the best job you possibly can to make sure everybody's comfortable and safe. And, you know, like that even goes into like making sure that we were happy and healthy every day on that tour, that we were fed the same nice meals that they were being fed, and like all of that sort of stuff, you know? So I once heard a story. I got to interview Jonathan Davis from Korn.
Oh, wow.
Many years ago. It was like for a magazine. It was like an artist on artist thing, which was funny because it was like, he's not going to ask me a dating question. He doesn't know who I am, but I'm happy to interview him, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, I appreciate you all tried to make me feel like he's going to care about my life. But anyway, it was great. I was excited because they were one of my first favorite bands when I was a little kid. So getting to ask him all the questions that like little kid Jeremy would have wanted to ask him was really, really cool. But he told me a story about a certain band that they opened for very, very early on in the tour, which they made them not feel very welcome and not very taken care of. And from that tour in like 1993 or 1994, it implemented in them that we are going to make sure that every band that we ever take on tour is comfortable and healthy and feeling good and feeling welcome and all of that. And any band that I know that has ever toured alongside Korn will say, most comfortable tour I've ever been on.
Wow.
So
that's such a cool thing when you hear that.
Yeah.
I had this experience, and it's always nice. And I think like it meant something to you to hear that. As you said, you had the same thing with Rise Against. Like that, there's a direct flow and effect from that. You have those people that you're like, oh, you're a superstar in this world, but you still had like humility or love, or you showed that to the smaller people. That flows on to the next thing. I think that's such a cool way to lead from the top.
Yeah, if you're not passing down and you know, paying forward that kind of kindness, I don't know why you're here.
Yeah.
You know?
It's such an important thing in the heavy music scene, like regardless of what subgenre you're a part of, because it's not widely supported unless you get to the point where you're a Foo Fighters or a Linkin Park or a Metallica. Like it's not really widely supported outside. So you got to keep it all in house to an extent, regardless of how big the band gets, like Korn. You got to keep that respect and that mutual love. And like you said, the pay it forward thing, because no one else is going to do it for us. You know what I mean?
It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true.
Now you're going on tour. When do you leave for tour?
The first show is next week, the 9th, here in LA.
That's exciting.
And the album comes out the 11th.
Yeah, I was about to say the album's coming out like into the tour. Is that something that's like exciting, or does that add a level of stress to it?
Having the album not be out when we play our hometown show on the 9th? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Not ideal. But you know, we live in a world where you just gotta roll with the punches, you know. Some of that is our fault. We did turn our album in a month and a half late. So, you know, to peel back the curtain a little bit. It was hard to book a tour, especially, I mean, let's pull back the curtain further. We are seeing more and more, a lot of tours getting canceled, a lot of festivals being canceled due to low ticket sales, etc., things like that. We are touring at a time where all of our peers were basically just leapfrogging each other in every single city. So, I think it's understandable to see bands frustrated, upset, feeling low, feeling down on themselves because they're looking at the ticket sales and being like, wow, no one likes us anymore. I'm here to say that is not the case.
Yeah, people
It is
just
a
can't
case
afford
of
shit.
everything is so goddamn expensive right now.
Yeah.
Everything has gone up in price. Uh, musicians haven't been paid more, that's for sure. But it's getting harder and harder to get people out, and I get it. I mean, I'm sure we're all guilty of being like, oh, I could go to that show, or I could sit on my couch and watch the thing that I've been meaning to watch on the streaming service that I'm now having to pay $25 a month for, that used to be $7.99 a month. Whatever.
It's so true.
Everything is expensive. So like, I mean, this week or that week in LA, like we play on the 9th, like Drug Church is on the 10th, Fiddlehead is on the 11th. Like like all of our peers that are all we have all been on the same tour together. Probably.
Yeah.
You know? But either way, it's one of these things that's tough. So like which isn't good. You play in a band, do you like getting ticket sale updates? Do you like getting those?
Well, I got out of playing for a long time, and the band that I'm in now, we basically are just all dads that do it for fun, and we don't take it that serious anymore. Like, we're not chasing the dream, and it's honestly the least stressed I've ever been in a band.
Hell yeah.
And it's great.
I was gonna say, getting the ticket count updates. I know a lot of bands that are like, I don't want to see them ever, you know, because it's like it's a landmine spring on your mental health, where you're like, you know, I do like seeing them just because it keeps you humble, but it also keeps you excited at the same time. You know, like there's a lot of cities on this upcoming tour where I'm like, whoa, like we've never done that many in that, you know, like this ahead of time. Like that's really great. And then there's some where you're like, that continues to look like a little bit of a trouble spot. But you know what? Everyone in these situations likes to tell us that it's a walk-up town. You know, people are like, it's a walk-up town. Don't you worry about it. Don't you worry about it. But the way we're kind of, you know, we continue to sort of operate is like, look, we've been a band for 16 years now. The fact that anyone is still coming, anyone is still listening, I'll take it. I'm appreciative as hell, and I'm excited for the tour. I think it's going to be, you know, I think it's going to be awesome. I'm excited to play the new songs live, to reconnect. You know, we didn't get a chance to do a lot of headlining tours off of our last record. Came out in 2020, all the obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm looking forward to it. But you know, I also am extremely empathetic and sympathetic to everyone affected by the financial world, and also there's no shortage of tours happening.
Yeah.
When it comes to that sort of thing, do you use streaming to get like a kind of understanding, like the analytics you can get from, say, your Spotify, your Apple Music, to see, okay, cool, we know that we've got this many people listening in this general area. Like when you guys came to Australia, for example, this year for New Bloom.
This year, yeah.
Time, man, it's flying by.
I know. Tell me about it.
By the way, you were great. I watched you and you were fantastic. It was really fun.
Oh, what show were you at? That's really nice.
Sydney. I was in
Sydney. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Do you use that stuff to get a kind of a base understanding of like, okay, these are the rooms we should be playing, or do you leave that up to like the booking agents? How does that work for you?
I have come to realize that we just kind of get sent a routing and we go, okay, you know, I like to hope that everybody has our best interest at heart. And usually they do. Man, we were all like, I can't believe it took us this long to get back to Australia. You know, like we hadn't been there since 2017 or 2018 until then.
Was that with Every Time I Die?
No, it was with Turnover. We did Every Time I Die before that one.
Before that,
yeah. But no, it was with Turnover. And we always have just such a great time every time we're there. And that Turnover tour was honestly like the best response that we had in Australia leading up till this last one. But it just made us, you know, solidify like we need to come back more, you know. So
we were just saying that. Yeah.
We're hoping we will be back you know, hopefully by next summer.
You've got this album cycle to at least get you back here. So you've got good reason.
Exactly.
And anyone from Australia that's watching this, go stream the album.
Yeah,
so they know that you want them out here.
Now,
please.
Speaking of the album, I'm going to ask a difficult question. you've got to, gun to your head, cut one track off the album, what would it be?
Oh no.
You can also just pick one at random if that's too hard. There's no, you don't need to be too deep about it.
Yeah. What's funny, and this is not a way to deflect, but maybe it's a little bit of a way to deflect, is that we did cut a song from the album, which we're gonna we just stored aside for like, maybe we'll do something with that later down the line.
Deluxe or a B-side or something.
Something, maybe a 7-inch next year or something like that. But that, I will say, was pretty difficult because everybody's least favorite song is someone else's favorite song. Always. And like, it might be a circumstance of this. I might not feel as attached to a certain song. But I also didn't write the riff for it. And the person who wrote the riff for it fucking believes in that riff. So I don't know. There was a little bit of the one that we ended up cutting. I looked at it like this song kind of has the same sorts of parts and gets loud when this, then the quiet, and it gets loud again. Like it had some sonic similarities to one of the other songs. And I was like,
sure,
I like that, the one that we kept a little bit more. Yeah. So that was my reasoning for it. But the album too, again, I didn't mean to deflect, but like each song kind of has so much of its own identity that it would be really hard for me to choose one.
All right, what's your favorite song on the album?
Yeah.
If you can't cut it, you got to pick a favorite.
This question is no easier.
Yeah, right. Can I give you two answers? Can I choose? Okay,
yeah, definitely. But we need reasons why.
Sure. So there's a song on the record called Subversion. Then in parentheses it says Brand New Love.
Yeah.
Which featuring for me is like, yes, exactly. And that situation to me is like the coolest thing in the entire world. Just a little bit of backstory because it actually involves Australia. And I don't know if you've heard the story at all, but I wrote that song while we were on that tour that you saw us on. There's a line where I say, Brand New Love plays as we touch down in Adelaide. Am I displaying progress or subverting silence? I'm not afraid of flying in any capacity, but there's a lot of times where like, if I'm coherent that we're landing and I have the ability to play one of my favorite songs when we're landing, maybe I'll do it just in case something goes sideways. At least I'm listening to one of my favorite songs, So Brand New Love from the band Subdo is one of my all-time favorite songs, in my top 20 for sure. And I realized while writing it, I was like, oh my God, you can sing the chorus of the Subdo song over the outro. They sound completely sonically different, but there's like a way that the vocals land in there in a really interesting way. Cut to fast forward, we're recording the record, and I get a wild hair up my ass, and I'm like, what if I asked Lou Barlow to sing this? Which is the most brazen thing you could ever do, is be like, hey, excuse me, sir, will you sing your song on our song?
I like your song. We could do it better.
Certainly not better. But I was able to get in touch with him. I wrote him as thoughtful of an email as I could possibly muster. And he responded and was like, this sounds cool. This sounds interesting. And
I love that.
And the fact that he did it, and he's a man that I still have not met, really. We've exchanged an email and a couple text messages, and that's it. So the fact that he was willing to give us something so sacred on our record, etc., is like, I still can't believe without even
a pre-existing relationship or anything. It's crazy. Respect.
Yeah, I'm still pretty blown away by it. And I mean, he's on, because he also plays in Dinosaur Jr. Like, he's on tour with Weezer at the moment. But I still just can't believe that happened. And I'm forever in debt to that level of kindness. Which speaks to, like, he comes from punk too, and I think that one of the, I've said this before on like the podcasts I do and stuff like that, but like some may look at the fact that the ceiling is pretty low in punk and hardcore as like a negative. I look at it the other way. I look at it, a glass half full situation where I'm like, because of that, it doesn't take that much effort to end up meeting your heroes or working with your heroes or getting to open for your heroes, etc. So Anyway, so for that, I will say Subversion. But in terms of just like a song that I think just like fucking rips, there's a song called Mezzanine, which is like one of the more hyper aggressive songs that we've written in a few records, and the whole outro to it is really, I love it a lot, and I'm anxious to have to sing it because I fucking ripped my throat apart doing it in the studio. That's where I'm like, man, if we start doing this on tour, see you later. You know?
Yeah.
Are you looking
It's
forward to playing that
always
one
the
live?
last song now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to playing it, but I'm also looking forward to playing it when our audience knows it, so they could at least
Yeah.
help me a little bit, in it. So yeah.
Well, look, on the bright side, I still remember years and years ago, and this is like one of the first vivid memories I have of this happening is I went and saw Incubus, and it was about 2 or 3 weeks before Morning View album had dropped, and they played on their Australian tour three of the songs that would later become singles before the album had even dropped. And I think the only one that had dropped was that Wish You Were Here song. And it was this cool thing where they made a note of saying, hey, this is going to be on our album. This is going to be a single, hope you enjoy it. And I remember when the album came out, like it took me back to that place where I got to hear that song before a lot of other people would have.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a glass half full way of thinking about it there.
Yeah. Could be.
Just dedicate that song to their hometown.
Yeah.
This song was for you guys, and this is what it means, and then they'll hold that. They'll take it.
It's true. Did Brandon Boyd still have dreadlocks?
He did not. So it was actually just when he got rid of them and he was a bit more clean cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
The beginning of the end for me.
I would always joke, like, I mean, look, he was always a good looking guy, even with dreadlocks. But can you imagine how excited the record label was when he cut those things off? They were like,
oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now this
you're
is
even more beautiful.
Yeah, now this is marketable, boys.
They released Drive and he cut his hair and they were just like dollar signs.
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
Yep.
Have you heard the story of how he became the frontman of that band?
Not sure I know it.
So I don't know where I heard. It was an interview with one of the guys in the band. They were saying that the reason he was the frontman because they wanted to start a band and they didn't have a frontman. They're like, we just need someone that looks good without their shirt on. Brandon, do you want to be the frontman? That was legitimately the reason he became the frontman because he was like, oh yeah, I dance around without my shirt on all the time. I guess I could be a frontman.
It just so happens he sounds like bloody Mike Patton crossed with Jesus.
Yeah, well, he didn't. Apparently, that was the thing. He worked out really hard to become a good singer because he already had the look. But it was like, reverse engineering. So
wow. The first 7-inch I ever owned was a split 7-inch with Incubus and Far, which is another band on Immortal. Yeah. So soft spot. Always much due respect to Incubus.
All right, so I'm gonna finish this with the question that we love to ask, and your dream artist to tour with. You've already done Rise Again. That's a big one. But what's a dream artist now?
I want dream tour. I want 4 bands.
4 bands.
Yep, including yourselves.
Okay.
To make up your dream tour.
Everyone always asks this as a stipulation, but are the bands alive and like current, alive and well?
You pick whatever you want.
Oh, okay. You know what? For the sake of keeping this in a form of reality, I'm going to pick bands that are currently active because if it was the other way around, we'd be here all day, gentlemen.
You're going for the manifestation part.
I'm going for the manifestation. That's what I'm doing. Okay.
I like that.
Deftones. Never toured with the Deftones. I feel like that would be really, really great. So Deftones. I will say their audience would not like us, The Cure.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
They should release a new single. Yeah. That's sick.
Yeah, exactly. Right. The Cure, Deftones, and see, I have too much like worried about their audience liking us brain, you know.
Don't worry about it. It's a very diverse tour right now, so I'm curious to see what the
you wait until I tell you that you guys are headlining.
Right. Yeah. The Cure, first of 4.
Yeah.
Okay. For the last one, I will say
We really got him on this one.
I know. Okay, I'm gonna cheat a little bit because they never officially broke up, and I'm gonna say Fugazi.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's a good mix.
Could
Yeah.
happen.
There you go. There you go. So they haven't played in a long time, but they never officially said we're done. And
I feel
think
like that
they
tour gets announced. I think they're into it. That's a pretty mixed lineup.
It's a
Yeah.
diverse lineup, but it's also not something that I wouldn't see working in a
Yeah.
weird way. There's little crossovers between everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the show progresses, it makes more sense. You know,
Yeah.
let us yell at you for 25 minutes while people are taking their seats, looking for their seats in a quarter filmed filled room. And then by the time the Cure is on, everybody's just having a good time. Yeah.
I like that. You talked before about people on tour who like made you feel welcome, and that's when we've talked about this before. We interviewed Deftones year before last. And that was probably the interview that Johnny and I were the most like, "Ooh, it's Chino. Like, what do we expect?"
Yeah,
and all we get there.
yeah, just like heroes of ours.
But just before we were interviewing, we're actually saying goodbye to the Electric Callboy dudes, and we'll give them hugs and say goodbye. And then I turn to Chino standing there, and he's like, "Do I get a hug?" And that was my initial. And I
was just like, "Fuck what they say, meet your heroes.
Do it, man. They're lovely."
That's awesome.
So I can't wait for you to get a hug on that tour too. That's gonna be the best.
We'll see.
But dude, congratulations on the album. As I said, we've been able to listen to it for a little bit, so we're stoked to see this next stage in the evolution of Touche. Everyone, the album is out now, so go stream it, go give it a play, and make sure to go out to the tour and come watch you guys shred it.
Very much appreciated. Thank you, boys.
Thanks so much, dude. Been a pleasure.